Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining the Sona webinar today. For those who are here for the first time, welcome. We are Sona, the next generation workforce management solution for hospitality operators, where consumer grade design is matched by AI driven decision making. We work with customers like Insomnia Cookies, of course, Paul Bakeries, The Pig Hotel, LGH, Glen Eagles, and many more. Just wanted to do a really quick housekeeping before I give it over to our lovely host, Paul. So just to make sure everyone knows, we'll be sending the recording after the webinar, and you'll also be getting a little surprise from some of our lovely partners. The chat function is available to everyone, so please make use of it. Ask Paul and Nicola your questions. We'll be monitoring it and hoping to be able to answer everyone's questions. Sona team will be present in the chat and obviously encourage interactions. This webinar, as mentioned, is recorded, but all views expressed in it today and the presentations reflect only the speaker's views and not the wider views of their company. Now, with the boring part out of the way, I know Paul's got some exciting topics to cover today, and Nicola's got amazing insights, so I'll let you guys take it over.
Thank you, Christina, and hello, everyone. Really excited. The second webinar of the current run, and again, focusing in on culture and what makes organizations great. Really pleased to be joined by Nicola today. I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. But for those of you that have not met me, my name is Paul Watson. I'm the VP of Hospitality at Sona. I've been working in the workforce management hospitality space now for 2 decades, and I've had the opportunity to work with some incredible brands and business leaders. The treat that Christina alluded to was that we will be sharing a voucher after this event so that you can go and treat yourself to a biscotti and some coffee. And the coffee is from a lovely company called True Start in my hometown of Bristol. Not that I had anything to do with actually getting them to deliver it, but always want to shout Bristol out where I can. So all that being said, Nicola, great to have you with us today, and I'd love you to share with the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi Paul. Hi everybody. Thank you for having me. My name's Nick Clark. I am the People Business Partner for Insomnia Cookies and have been heading up the people function since Insomnia's inception a little over 2 years ago. Prior to that, I've been working in hospitality in a variety of roles, from operations and people for about 10, 11 years. And before that, I was on high street retail for my sins. Been with Insomnia 2 years. Started when it was a little secret project being run by Krispy Kreme, and over the very busy last 2 years, we kind of now owned and operated straight out of the US. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. And yeah, I mean, it was a really exciting project when we first started speaking about it. Obviously, huge US brand, very well established over there. And as a starting point, we'd just love to kind of open up that conversation, because launching in the north of England, but obviously being trained in the US, how did you find that sort of that training? How did you find the sort of that onboarding of the team so that they could understand what the culture was about and what the product offering was all about, but keeping that sort of that Manchester feel to it, or that UK centric feel to it, without sort of coming across as just a US business?
Yeah, it was interesting. So we went over to the US. Kind of the core leadership team, store managers, went over to the US for a period of training, got exposure to a number of different bakeries over there, kind of delivery businesses or retail, but predominantly they're all based in and around major campuses. So spent a bit of time in Yale, which was very fancy. But really, when we came back to the UK, it was about taking the core essence, the ideology of the US, and being able to translate that to the UK market, without becoming another US brand that is a lift and shift, copy and paste kind of thing. So what we were very, very keen on as a team was being really true to ourselves as leaders, as people from the north, as you know, I'm not a Scouser, but I live and have been born kind of 20 miles outside of Liverpool. Spent a lot of time in Manchester working, so kind of that northern flair, that northern grit is kind of part of my essence, and part of all our teams. So it was very much around kind of just embracing that. So taking the core part of the US, which made it actually very, very easy. The values of the US are very, very reflective of the UK, given the right way, and then just kind of finding a team who embrace that own the night kind of mindset, embrace that warm, delicious, delivered kind of mindset. And it was an interesting process to try and do the practical training, because we didn't have any buildings to do it or product to do it. So we kind of learned a lot as we went along. That was 2 little stores in Manchester about 14 months ago. We're now 4 stores. We're in Sheffield. We're about to open Nottingham in January. So, and we're doubling in size in 2025, which is really, really exciting. So still learning as we're going. I have to say that we kind of have to be really, really light on our feet with that. Manchester was one thing. We opened 2 and then we opened a 3rd. So it made it very easy from a training point of view and practically. But for Nottingham being nowhere near Manchester, it was interesting, and the cities we're looking at opening in the new year, which I can't go into, but it's very exciting. I'm very excited about it, guys. Will again give us another avenue to try and figure out. But what's great is we are a very kind of reactive team, lots of ideas. And everyone kind of pulls together to deliver what we need to deliver.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, that must be quite an interesting challenge, where you're opening a brand in a new city where perhaps brand awareness isn't there just yet. It's starting to grow. How have you found that sort of, finding the right people who can identify with a brand when perhaps the brand is, a disruptor starter brand? Has that been a challenge for you, or?
I thought it was going to be really tricky. So I've been doing recruitment a long time. In every function I've ever worked with, recruitment was a key part of that. When we first were about to launch in Manchester, I honestly thought this is going to be really, really tricky. I had recruitment consultants on the sideline ready to support and help when I was looking for the store managers. And honestly, I've never experienced caliber like it. All I did was launch a job role on a job site, and honestly, I've never seen a response like it. And I was kind of trying to, I suppose, really reflect on why did I think that it appealed to people so much. And I think it's got to come down to our tone of voice. So if you're familiar with the brand, or you've seen our socials, you've seen our marketing, you've seen our online presence, it's that tone of voice. It's that kind of that honesty piece, that cheeky piece, that kind of little bit naughty piece that we just absolutely love. And I think the job adverts were very reflective of that. I interviewed some amazing talent, and I have interviewed in kind of going out of Manchester again, some amazing talent. It's unbelievable what is out there in the UK market right now, and people who are not happy in the homes that they're in, wanting to try something very different, or something that kind of appeals to them on a kind of integrity level. And it was fantastic. And then that happened again at shift leader level, and then that happened again at cookie crew level. We've been able to really pick the kind of the cream of the crop, and we've not had enough jobs or enough positions or enough roles for the amount of talent we've had apply. And it's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I was at the People conference the other week, and hearing from an operator who had that similar sort of message, that there are great people out there, and if they buy into your brand, you will find that you're almost overwhelmed with the amount of applications that you get. And and sifting that down cannot be an easy task, I'm sure. So with that, obviously, you've got all these applicants coming in and not enough roles to sort of fulfill the demand. Do you think that sort of underpins your ability to expand, doubling in size next year? What do you think is the sort of the secret sauce to how you're going to roll out, and how big is this going to get?
I mean, the sky's the limit, right? So our aim, our dream is to be the #1 cookie brand in the UK. End of. So we plan on being in every major city across the UK, predominantly university based. So starting in the big places. London is obviously on the cards, and will be something we look at. But we've been really, really keen to kind of open and launch out away from London and kind of really own and understand who we are in the UK market, and learn from every store opening, every bakery opening, every expansion point, every property we find, we learn something from that to be able to put to the next search. We're never stopping from a searching point of view, and that's exactly the same from our team and our people. What I haven't got is a document that says this is the ideal insomniac, because there's no such thing for us. Everybody and anybody is our ideal insomniac. We're looking for people with integrity. We're looking for people with passion. We're looking for diversity. We're looking for that little guy that gets overlooked by larger businesses or more corporate businesses. We are so not corporate. Hey, I'm sat here in a hoodie. That's kind of the essence of who we are. We are fun. We're non-hierarchical. There is a whole team of people who just love what they do, love the brand, but didn't know that in the beginning. I didn't know I loved these cookies until I started. And when you think about it, it's like I joined 2 years ago and it was nothing. There was nothing. It was an idea on a piece of paper, and fell in love with a brand that didn't exist. Went to the US, fell in love with it more, launched it in the UK, and became an absolute ambassador for it. And that is what is happening at every level across our business at the moment, and every city we go into. And then we've got a really fantastic kind of social media team, marketing team, who are great at getting new cities kind of excited about us and wanting us and kind of geeing everybody up, which also helps from a recruitment point of view. Kind of people want to work for us. They see the people that we've got on our social media, and they're our team, right? The majority of people on our social media are our cookie crew. They work for us. They work in our bakeries day in, day out. We don't use a great deal of models. Like don't get me wrong, from a professional marketing campaign, yes, but the actual socials, I can name those. I know who those are. I recruited them. And these are people who are at uni and doing marketing at uni, or doing kind of media at uni, or kind of, it's something that is their proper jobs. We can help with. We have a value called Big Dreams, and we want to help people make that. And that doesn't mean whilst working for Insomnia Cookies. That means we want to help people set themselves up for their future, their career, whether that is with us or whether that is not with us. And that's really, really core and key for us.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I remember the launch campaign in Manchester. You really went to town with that one. It was an incredible hype. But I mean, that's incredible. I mean, we were talking obviously before, and you're getting a lot of applications coming through. Your trading hours aren't the most typical in the UK for a sort of hospitality QSR / retail / outlet. How have you found, and I'm always cautious on sort of talking about Gen Z, millennials, etc., but the news we would expect to be true is that these people wouldn't necessarily like the antisocial hours. Have you found that, or is it? It looks like it hasn't.
No, so I mean, 90% of our team are Gen Z.
Yeah.
That is ultimately the customer we are targeting anyway. The university students, the late night. We're up to provide late night treats when you want them. And I'm like you, Paul. I was, I'm traditional retail. I'm traditional hospitality. 11 o'clock's probably the latest, really, kind of work that we're going to. And I sat in so many meetings going, I'm going to have a nightmare recruiting. We're going to have to do something from a pay differential. I'm going to have to do something really different. And honestly, I was blown away by the mindset of people who have been desperately looking for a job or a company or a role that reflects their personal needs. And actually, so many people are what is the classic night owls. They don't come awake. They don't come alive until 10 o'clock at night. They don't want to be up at 8 o'clock in the morning opening a bakery. That's the middle of their night for them. That's just as they've gone to bed, sort of thing. So I was absolutely blown away by that. I'd built an entire section around the recruitment piece, around making sure that people were aware it's a late night business, and an interview, making sure. And honestly, the people I sat in front of, and I was like, right, we're late night, and midnight till 2 a.m. is one of our busiest periods. Yeah, no problem. And you kind of, in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, okay, you just want to roll, and then when you get, availability will change. And the reality is we haven't seen that. The only place we have seen that is people who only wanted to do kind of your normal, more traditional scheduled shifts, actually wanting to do the lates, because they're more fun, they're busier, there's more energy, there's more engagement, there's more customers. And they want to be part of that. We've worked really hard to make sure that the silly things like the music in the bakeries is reflected of kind of the energy levels of the team. And we don't kind of calm our music down in an evening. It gets ramped up because we're a late night party. We're the late night party you want to come and join and have our cookies.
That's awesome. Look, message there sounds like if you can get the culture right and the culture fit right, the skill is in abundance. It's just about making sure that you get the right person through the door in the first place. It sounds like you've had an enormous amount of successes so far, and long may they live. But have you? People love to hear about how to avoid mistakes or dodging the pitfalls. What would you say has been a sort of particular challenge you've managed to overcome, or something that's not gone quite as smoothly on the journey so far?
Oh, I mean, where do I start? The reality is we have hit pitfalls at every step of the way. Sort of from taking a US brand and bringing it to the UK, where you've got a very core essence of what the brand is in the US, and that is that college campus, that university student. That's where it started, right? It started in a dorm in a college, and that is the big thing for the US. And we know that the UK university life is not the same as the US. There isn't that that massive. Well, one, the UK is not that big. So the reality is it's not that far to go from one end of the country to the other. It is to us, but not to the US. That's commutable. The reality is Manchester to London is commutable on a daily basis. So it was trying to get the US to understand that there isn't that kind of the same sort of college campus lifestyle, and the kind of high street it will be very important to us as well, and footfall and traditional shoppers. There was also, goodness, we have our own riders, so we have a first party rider system. We don't just use your classic third parties like Uber and Just Eat and Deliveroo. We're really, really focusing on our own first party. So we employ our own riders and drivers, which in itself came up with so many bumps and lumps and rules that just don't exist in the US. Anyone can be anyone can drive for and deliver food or anything in the US without any sort of kind of checks and balances. The UK is very, very different. And then one of the other ones was then kind of building that trust with the US team so that they believed what we were saying, to make sure that actually the reason we were saying it was to make the brand successful in the UK and not just about Brits causing problems, which kind of, or I think there was one meeting where it was whinging Brits, which kind of is one of those things, and you laugh it off, but we are now in such a great place, with the work that has been done, the trust that's been done, the cross the pond kind of communications, the visits, them coming to us going to them, that now we're in a place where actually if we suggest something, it's believed and it's for the right reasons. And we've got so much flexibility now with the interpretation of the brand. For example, product, like we're a cookie business. We also have brownies and blondies and we have ice creams. But we've got cookie shakes, so we can convert any cookie into a cookie shake. The US don't have the facility to do that. So we've got that. We've got all sorts of different things in the pipeline that, from a menu perspective, will be very, very different to the US, but it will be reflective of the UK consumer, because we want it to be successful. And what we can't do is just kind of, as a business, cling on to a one size fits all mentality, because it doesn't. And that is across our business. That is from recruitment to, customer service to the product itself.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I was at Peach on Monday, and Clay from Velvet Taco was talking about how important it is to sort of find those spots. US business opening in London, and it's sort of like this is their shop front. So many different nationalities come to London and see it, whereas, to your point, London to Manchester in the UK is a sort of 2-hour journey, but in the US, going from one state to another is maybe a couple of days to do the job. So you don't get that sort of concentration of people, or an expectation of that being representative of the area that you're operating in. So that's obviously got to be a really interesting learning point as you open up each of those sites. You touched a little bit about engagement, and I think that might be more to do with customers, but we have mentioned Gen Z. You can attract these people. Your team are your social media stars. How do you make sure that culture doesn't dampen? I always see the interview process much like a dating sort of system, really. You either fall in love, but you've got to keep that relationship going. How do you keep those team members engaged in the culture of flying?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think as we grow bigger, it's going to become even tougher. So, like right now, there isn't anybody in our business currently that I haven't personally had an input on from recruitment perspective, because I'm kind of a one man people team. But as we grow, that's not gonna be sustainable. And I think from one, like from a recruitment side, it's making sure that the people who kind of take that baton are of the same kind of mindset, that passion piece is there, that kind of the will piece is there, what the kind of looking for that right person on that day in that environment. But then from the existing team, for me, it's not just about a value on a wall. Right, or a notice board that here are our company values. I mean, we're a bit techie, right? We've got TV screens in the back that kind of cycle through information, and it's a great system. But what I was really, really keen on was getting some sort of kind of system in place from a engagement kind of review or survey. I've worked in businesses before where you did an annual engagement survey, and the reality is that's great, and if that works, it works. But for me, it was very much that's a one stop. As a human being, I've not got the capacity to go in one survey how I felt over 12 months, because my emotions are up and down all the time. I have good days, I have bad days. They are due to work, they're not due to work. So what we've been really keen on is a real time kind of review of how people are feeling. So we've got there's a great system in place, and I have real time visibility of that, and it allows me to see kind of trends coming or potential identify potential issues that may be happening, or is the one bakery that I'm starting to see a pattern emerge, and if that's the case, what do I need to do about it now to kind of stop that before it becomes a classic HR issue. HR historically was a really reactive kind of department. It only came into force really when there was a problem, or that's the perception of what old school HR was. And I think now we're the kind of changing it to people, and having a department that is people is about kind of seeing things before they become problems, identifying kind of what are the benefits, what's the right pay, what's the right work schedule, what's the right flexibility, how do we bring that in line with kind of business needs and managing those. And it's actually a really kind of tricky juggling act. And I'm not saying we have got it right. I'm not saying in any way, shape or form that we've fixed that problem, and I can give you a very clear message. It's very much we learn as we go on. We have a really open team at all levels, where I can walk into a bakery and anyone will come up and talk to me. Generally, they know when I'm there because I'm noisy and I'm loud, and sometimes with headphones in, singing as I walk through the door. But it's kind of engendering that trust with the team, that what is said is done, that integrity piece, that that real honesty, and that's at the core of who I am as a leader, and that is what I challenge our leaders on, to ensure that they are the same. And again, not fixed, not by any means a fixed point.
Yeah, it's it really resonates with me what you're saying there, because I think now almost a dim distant past, but the time when HR teams were probably called upon the most was the pandemic. Suddenly it was a massive problem to face and to deal with, and furlough and all that sort of stuff. And I think that if there is any sort of positives that came out of it, and I'm sure there are a few, but some of the positives that came out of it was that I think it gave people teams a much louder voice and a seat at the table. And now there is more. We certainly see it with our customers and the people I talk with. There's more of a correlation. So to that point, if you're seeing that pattern, actually, what's the causation? What's the correlation between what's going on in the business to that actual behavior trend? Because I think it was always quite narrow focused. The pandemic, if anything, made it a much broader issue because it was all these different components. And now I think people teams look at things on I know they always have, but to your point of they're wheeled in when there was a problem. Now I think how do we avoid the problems from becoming those big things we can't deal with? You touched on some of the sort of the KPI pieces then, and people and culture is everything, and it's been really interesting. I think the last few weeks, we can talk about forecasting and all that sort of stuff till the cows come home, but some of the messages I heard from Roy Ellis from Mission Mars, where he was saying like retention is everything for them, because if you don't retain your team, doesn't matter how good your forecast is, you're not going to be able to deliver on your brand standards. So just be really interested to hear, like, what sort of KPIs are you bringing in? What sort of operational efficiencies have you started to sort of focus in on?
Yeah, I mean, retention is key. The cost to recruit and train is massive, and it's getting bigger and bigger. And hospitality being the business that it is, it's quite a transient kind of environment anyway. Anybody can kind of go door to door on a street and do the same job for slightly different rates of pay. So retention for us is, for me, it's I have a nice little target in my head, and I'm pleased that we are booking the trend. So
Great.
I signed up for another system, just to see where I was in comparison to hospitality as a whole, and our retention right now is half the retention of other like-for-like businesses, small businesses specifically, which is fantastic. It's something that it kind of proves my whole kind of ethos and theory that, you know, you treat people right and you look after people and you listen to people and you're honest with them, and that goes a long way. And I've always been very much a people work for people. People don't work for Insomnia Cookies. I work for Insomnia Cookies. But, you know, someone on a 12-hour contract who does 3 days a week doesn't work for Insomnia Cookies. They work for their store manager. You know, we're very keen on kind of people having great relationships at bakery level and across the patch. I mean, we've got other KPIs, like engagement is a big one for me. Slightly harder to quantify. You can do a survey, you can have a good survey and pat yourself on the back, and you can have a bad round of surveys and it not be as great. I think the engagement KPI is more around kind of to support the planning and the growth of the business. And like I say, being able to kind of predict or track trends that will then impact the business. So if I'm seeing that people aren't happy, then there is a much higher chance that they're going to leave, and I'm going to need to start a recruitment process again. And what's the reason for that unhappiness? And it's something that can be rectified quickly, or is it a bigger issue? And being able to do that for us, like NSO KPIs are key, where our expansion is so key to us, and all our effort is constant reinvestment to get our bakery level up across the UK. We're at 4 now. We should be at 5. We've had a delay with Nottingham, and that will open in January, but we will be at 10 by kind of this point next year. So that's whilst it's only 10 and we're only a little business to kind of some of the people who are on here who are much bigger, we are doubling the size of our business in a 12-month period, which is a massive undertaking with the kind of the infrastructure that we've got currently. So we're super excited about that. So growth for our business is a massive KPI, and all the other bits and pieces are underpins for that. So like growth's the outcome. That's what we want to do. The impact to that is our investment in people. It is our time that we're taking to do that. It is our training. It is our development. It's our pipeline. It's our not just about shining stars and superstars and the people of kind of leaders of the future. It's about understanding the people who don't want to be leaders of the future. We're a 18 plus employer. Majority, like I say, 90% of our team are Gen Z, and they're also at university. So we provide a real flexible working pattern that is around their studies and allows them to go for, you know, their jobs at the end of their 3 years. Some we keep, some we convert into leaders of the future. Some are just really, really great for the period of time that we have them. And it's about allowing that and encouraging that, and not feeling like you're being let down when somebody leaves for the right reasons, because you'll always get people who are going to go and do this. You know, I couldn't have been prouder by one of my shift leaders leaving me last kind of couple of months ago to go and do their masters in London. Like all I kept saying to her is, just give me a bit of time and we'll try and get London open for you. And then you can come back. But it's those sorts of kind of change in attitude that was then in businesses I previously worked for, where when somebody left, it was like a kick in the teeth. You just got to understand that actually people have their lives and people do what they do, and some people just come to work and are just super good at it, and then like to go home and do what they do, and allowing them that flexibility.
Yeah, there's a massive difference, isn't there, with good leavers to just leavers because you failed them, or something's failed them. And also, I always like to use the analogy of, within a machine, you've always got the cogs, and the cogs are the ones that are shining, you see them. But there's also others that are the oil, and without the oil, those cogs are going to stop turning. And they're the ones that are, often the sort of silent heroes, which I think, absolutely need to be not necessarily called out, because they might not want that recognition, but they can't be ignored. That's the important thing. Obviously, you are a trendsetter as a business, as Insomnia Cookies, and as a technology provider. It would be bereft of me not to ask the question. But what are you seeing industry trend wise? What do you see in technology that can help businesses stay competitive, stay relevant, help in sort of to keep that culture going, etc. Love to sort of understand a little bit more of your thoughts on that, because I don't think we're necessarily. I think we would probably be people persons. I work for a technology company, but I am a people person at heart. I just happen to love technology, so I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, right? There are so many buzzwords that kind of float about, and people jump on them because it's trendy of the time. And look, I'm old school. I'm never been very good with trendy. Even when I was actually young, I was never very good with trendy. But I think it comes down to some real kind of core fundamentals for me. You can have the best tech in the world, and it can be useless because you didn't put the right input into it. So for me personally, when I was looking at kind of a tech provider specifically for my needs, for my HR needs, I did so much work on finding the right fit, because it is surprising that the tech companies out there right now who don't like the little guy, and it doesn't matter if you're a little guy with massive expansion plans, they don't want you. And that was an interesting kind of journey for me, because here I am, really passionate about what I want and how I want it, and was taking meetings day in, day out with tech companies who were just like, yeah, no. And that was it. They'd take the meeting, we'd get to the end, and then they'd go, yeah, no, we can't help you, or we can, and here's we're going to charge you as a big business. We're going to charge you as 500 heads. And it's like, okay, but we're a startup, we're an entrepreneur. So for me, like tech, we love tech. So we're a digital first brand, and we are predominantly Gen Z. If we don't have tech, it's like chopping someone's arm off. So the introduction of engagement pieces and stuff via app was core. I sat in meetings with companies going, right, and if your team don't have smartphones, but that is something that just doesn't exist in my business. Right, everybody has a smartphone, everyone has kind of multiple tech, and most of my team are have kind of bigger advanced knowledge of tech than I do. That they're helping me, and I rely on them to kind of tweak what we've got and go, Nick, can it do this? I don't know. Let's ask the question. So I think it's an interesting one. Like tech is tech. Like I don't think there's any point where tech isn't great. We started as from a people function. We started as an analog function. So the tech was invested in the customer side, the retail side, the tills, the really fancy menu boards, and the back of house screens, and the supply chain piece, and all the stuff that kind of added value. But there was no kind of, at that point in the beginning, there was no value seen in tech for people, which was absolutely wrong. And when we moved away from Krispy Kreme and went to Insomnia, it was a very, very, very quick turnaround for me to find a tech partner that would support us from a rostering, HR system, T&A system, etc. And that was vital, and that's been a game changer for me, because it comes back to that piece about real-time knowledge. There isn't a function now with the system we've got that doesn't have real-time knowledge on, right, basic, what's our labor look like, what's our sales looking like, what's our forecast look like, more in depth, right, what's our engagement piece looking like, how are our holidays being managed, what are the checks and balances we've got in there, what does that cost to us, and how is that impacting our bottom line and our EBITDA, and those pieces of information. And then on top of that, you've got the really fancy stuff like the Google Analytics and the customer service piece, and kind of a mystery shopper system that we've got going on over here, and how does that link to our delivery metrics, and so tech is huge. But I will always come back to it. It needs to add value. It needs to do exactly what you want it to do. Don't we can't try and fit our business around the tech that's provided. It's find a company, find a partner that can give you exactly what you want, or if they can't today, can they tomorrow? And kind of pick that up.
Yeah, no, well, that's yeah. I'm well. This isn't about us, but I'm glad that we were able to help. I was always trying to avoid talking about Sona, but this is just about learning about you and the challenges and sort of industry leaders. But that was it was lovely to hear, and great to understand how you embrace that technology across all areas. But I mean, obviously, going back to that, people are still at the heart. You said it has to add purpose. So, and how can you use technology to, or how do you use technology to help people grow? Like, not necessarily like what buttons are you pushing, but what does it do to help you sort of grow that culture forwards?
Yeah, so I mean, you've got all sorts of bits and pieces around tech from a training point of view. Not just making sure that your training ensures that you're legally compliant and it's a box tick. So I'm against anything that is a box tick system or piece of work. So it's making sure that those pieces are there. Right now we've now got a team of people who have over 12 months service with us, which is amazing. So on a scale piece, like if I were to compare myself to another business, I don't look so great because my length of service isn't good. But actually, we've only been operating for 14 months, and when I've got 87% of my team who have been with me for 14 months.
I kind of, you're doing something right.
Yeah, but then without that tech, I wouldn't have been able to tell you I've got 87% without going through every single person's start date and working it out. So it's kind of like I can use those systems. But now I've got people who are kind of changing their mind about where the direction of their lives are going, and kind of what can Insomnia do for them, and how can I do that? So again, tech, like processes, like anything, you don't necessarily know you need it until the day that you find you need it. So it's kind of like, right, how can I leverage this piece of tech to be able to help that person who wants to change where they're going and actually wants to go into leadership or into marketing, or is there something we can do with our business, or they want to go into ops, or actually they've been doing something with maintenance over here. How can that add value to our business, and how can we use the systems we've got and leverage their learning? And I think that's kind of the tech of the future. That's the piece that is the adaptable piece that we're looking for. And kind of being able to think on your feet and move with something is going to be key for any business and any business's growth. I mean, I don't want to use the dreaded AI and what that does and how that impacts, but the reality is that it plays a part in a business that has sales and customers. Yeah. But again, it's only as good as the information you give it. AI is only as good as, if you're trying to predict sales trends, well, that's great until the snow hit on, kind of Monday night and took the entire northwest of England out of anything because there was snow on the ground and nobody knew how to walk again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, as we're coming to a close, we're getting to that time of year. So I read last week about the fact that you're based or have sites in Manchester, about Christmas markets. So firstly, has it affected you? Because appreciate that, sometimes when Christmas markets come along, some of those independents or operators feel that they see a downturn in revenue. And equally, probably more excitingly for our listeners, what Christmas goodies are you offering?
We'll do the markets first then. I'll end on the high with the goodies. So yes, this is our second year in Manchester with the markets. We'd only just opened last year, and we were probably a little naive around kind of thinking it was going to bring all this footfall and it was going to be great and we were going to be incredibly busy. And the reality was we weren't. It was the complete opposite. But we knew it was coming this year, and where our main city centre Manchester store is right at the bottom of Market Street, for anyone who knows. So We are slap bang in the middle of the heart of Christmas market, Manchesterland. And again, yes, are the days quieter than we anticipated? Yeah, they are. They really are. However, they also close at like 9 o'clock at night, and we trade till 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And what we found is at the point of the markets closing and being kicked out, we are seeing a massive hike in footfall coming straight to us for warm cookies. And it's been fantastic, and it's provided a really great energy at store. They love it. They also love going around the markets around half an hour before they close, reminding the market customers where we are. And then to not only get that, but we also get the people who work on the markets coming to us. It's been great. So we're enjoying Christmas markets this year, very much so. Yeah. But then on top of that, as of yesterday, we launched 2 new kind of LTO lines for Christmas. So we've got a caramel-filled double chocolate. So if you can kind of imagine a warm cookie kind of oozing with caramel goodness in the middle. And then my personal favourite and honestly one of the best cookies I've ever had is gingerbread. So real kind of cinnamon forward, gingerbread, but with these sugar crystals that sparkle like little stars that have a cinnamon flavour too. They're unbelievable.
Wow.
And for those of you who wish a boxer, we're doing naughty and nice box sleeves. So it depends whether you're being naughty for yourself or whether it's a naughty present or a nice present to someone else. But yeah, really excited about Christmas this year. And we're really starting to see kind of that engagement from a customer perspective as well.
Nicola, thank you so much. I believe we're at time. Christina, if you're still there, I think you're on mute at the moment, and appreciate that you are about to go off on travel, so you might have some background noise. But any final questions from you, Christina? Thoughts? Anything that I should have said that I've not done? I remembered to talk about the biscotti and coffee. But otherwise, Nicola, thank you so much for your time today. It has been so great to hear from you. And obviously, we're all watching with anticipation of where you're going to crop up next, and hope we can go and get our cookie treats sorted.
Yeah, well, just watch this space. There are a couple in the very close to being finalised. So real exciting 2025 news for Insomnia.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. And as always, amazing work, Paul. I think you guys have covered everything. I think all that's left is to try the new flavors. I'm excited for gingerbread. That sounds great.
Definitely.
Perfect.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. The recording will be shared with you. Do please share with colleagues, and look out for our next instalment, which will probably be on the other side of Christmas now, I would imagine. So I get to say, have a fantastic Christmas and Happy New Year. And if we don't speak to you before, we'll see you in the new year. But Nicola, thank you. And we will obviously be catching up soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a lovely
Take
day,
care,
everyone.
All. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.